All right. Welcome, everybody, to Small Business News. My name is Ryan Howe. I'm a professional business coach. I work with small and medium sized businesses to grow their companies faster than they ever thought possible. We'll talk more about that in a minute. So, hey, welcome to Small Business News. This is a show, if you haven't been here before, where I do this live Monday through Friday, where I share some of the, two to three of the most important articles that I've gotten during the overnight and throughout the day on my feed from that I share with my clients to help them be able to perform better, help them with their business, whatever that looks like. So, again, learn more about what I do at summitbusinessguys.com. So, with that, let's see what we're going to be talking about today. Again, it is April 24th, 2024. Uh, First and foremost, I got a couple articles today. One's going to be on Pew Research. They just recently released a survey with small business demographics. It's pretty interesting to go through and just see what it is as far as like the breakout that they use for small businesses, the impact that those businesses have on the overall GDP, the hiring, the number of people. So it's definitely worth the spending some time on. And then the other one is the war on talent has obviously been raging now for a minute. Talent has been in short supply since around 2019, 2018, and it's only gotten worse. So with that, what are some of the things that SHRM, the professional organization for HR managers, they've recently had their conference out in Vegas, and they've basically released the top 7 things that they're expecting people to be top of mind. So we're going to go through that today. As always, any questions or concerns you have about the articles, you can go ahead and check those out. The links are in the description. So let's get into it today. So actually, before we get into today, I just a little bit of, happiness for me on my end here is that I recently had my solar power system. Let's see again. Basically just kicked on, and I just want to be able to show, look at that, making electricity. Go me. All right, a little bit of excitement there in the How household for that. So, but anyways, let's get into our first article, which is going to be right here in the small business. So again, this is from Pew Research. They do an awful lot of work as far as polling for different reasons like that. And what they did here is they went out to a group of folks here, and they have the data. I do recommend, if you're curious about the additional things that they have going on in here, go to the article, and I'll show you where to click. You can actually see the full breakout of the entire survey and what it looks like. We're just going to kind of hit the peripheral here for some good stuff. But again, we're going to take a look at the small business here by Rebecca Leppert. All right. So with this, make it just a little bit bigger here. We got the space. Let's do it. Most U.S. adults, 86%, say small businesses have a positive effect on the way things are going in the country these days, according to a recent Pew Research Center survey. Small businesses, in fact, receive by far the most positive reviews of any of the 9 U.S. institutions we asked about, outranking even the military and churches. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, who's really going to say something bad about small businesses, right? You know what I mean? It's crazy. There is things obviously to critique, but overall, collectively, it's a thing. All right. Despite their name, small businesses loom large in the United States. These businesses, defined here as those with 500 employees or fewer, account for 99.9% of U.S. firms, according to the Small Business Administration. 99.9. While most of these 33 million firms don't have paid employees, about 6 million of them do. And what they mean is, when they're talking about those small businesses, that it's, kind of like me. I'm a one-person show here with Summit Business Guides. There's a plural. I got plans, but, it's where we're at. Or anybody who's like an independent contractor, right? They have a business license. They're out doing work. But many of them have employees, and we're going to take a look at that. Now, with that, they account, of those 6 million, they account for just under half of total private sector employment, 46%. 46% of the total private sector employment is with small business. So that's pretty impressive. So for next week, National Small Business Week approaches. Here's a look at small businesses in the U.S. and public attitudes about them based on federal data and center surveys. By the way, and here's where you want to go look how we did this. They'll break down the entire way that they looked at the survey. All right. About half of small businesses in the U.S. have just 1 to 4 employees. So let's take a look at this thing here. This is from 2021. There's been a few adjustments to the data, but overall, this is pretty much spot on. So with that, no employees, 14%. Again, on the left hand, so we got the number of employees on the left hand. The center column is the percent of all small businesses. Like, what's that makeup? And what's the percent of all small business revenue? So of the folks with no employees, they have basically 2% of overall revenue. 1 to 4 employees, almost half of all small business revenue of small businesses only account for 9% of the revenue. And as you can see, this thing skews left. So you can see that basically it tails off to the right. If we were to flip it on its side and look at it as a histogram, you'll see down here where the main components are: the 50 to 99 employees, the 100 to 249, down here. This is where the meat and potatoes are. This is 30, 50. This is over half come down. Basically over half of the revenue is generated by 3.3% of small business revenue. And these are going to be your, when you look at them, they're, this is going to be your manufacturers. These are going to be your, a lot of your, probably your logistics companies are in there. You're going to definitely have construction companies, things like that. All right. Those are going to be in your small business world right there. And they do generate a lot of capital. All right. So let's get into this other spot here. So who owns and runs small businesses? Again, if you have any questions or concerns here, again, this is small business news. Come here live every day. Again, if you like what you're seeing here, please hit subscribe and then hit that notification bell so you can get notified when I go live. Typically it's in the morning, around 11 a.m. Eastern. I had some client work today. So clients win. I had to go and spend some time with a great client that I have, adult foster care, assisted living place, facility, really great here in Michigan. But now I'm done back over here so I can talk with y'all. So with that, make sure to subscribe. And also, if you think this is something that, some small business owners who may benefit from this, feel free to forward this to them as well. All right. So who owns and runs small businesses? Some small businesses are family owned, but the vast majority are not. Among small businesses that reported this type of information, 27% were family owned and 73% were not. Good math there, guys. So-called mom and pop shops account for a relatively modest share of small businesses for which information is available. Overall, 10% of small businesses in the U.S. were jointly owned and operated equally by spouses in 2021. Another 11% were jointly owned by spouses, but separately operated, with men more likely than women to serve as the primary operators. Franchises aren't very common among small businesses. Just 5% of small businesses that reported this information were fully or partially operated as franchises. Makes sense? Now, in terms of demographics, this is interesting, these next two paragraphs, because last week, as we go through this, you're going to see we had more recent data from 2023, and I'm going to be able to talk to you about how that compares and contrasts to this data. It's still interesting. So in terms of demographic, men own a greater share of small businesses overall, about 6 in 10. 61% were majority owned by men, 22% were more majority owned by women, and another 14% were owned equally by men and women. So it's a 50-50 split. I have a couple of my clients are in 50-50 splits. It happens. So looking at small business where estimates of majority owners' race and ethnicity were available, most 85% had majority white ownership in 2021. Again, that's right in line with demographics within the country. That's not too surprising. However, smaller shares were majority owned by Asian Americans at 11%, Hispanic adults at 7%, and Black or African Americans at 3%. So this is the one where this is skewed. When you look at the overall demographics in the country, African Americans are in that 13 to 14 percentile. And then Asian Americans it's flipped down in the other direction. So this is one that is different. However, if you go back to the most recent stuff that came from the NFIB, the National Federation for Independent Business Owners, they are showing that of the new businesses that are being created, there's a larger number of women starting new businesses and a larger number of African Americans that are starting businesses. So this is in 2023. So again, the statistics, and that has a lot to do to the efforts that governments are putting into place, as well as private equity. And, so there's some nonprofits that are specifically targeting those demographics to ensure that they have access to capital and training in order to be successful. So, from the 2021 numbers here, but this piece all the way to 2023, we're seeing a good shift in that. So there's goodness in the work that they're doing. Again, despite owning small shares of these firms overall, many Black and Asian Americans see entrepreneurship as a mark of success, according to the Center surveys. All right, the last one we want to get in here is how old are most small businesses? Because this one, and then how often are they open? So many small businesses stood the test of time. In 2021, the majority of these firms, 59% had been operational for at least 6 years, according to the Census Bureau's Business Dynamics statistics. This includes 15% that had been in business for more than 25 years. On the other end of the spectrum, about a third of businesses had been running for 5 years or fewer, including 9% that had lost in the last year. So, those numbers are about right that I've seen historically. There's many businesses, once you get over the first two hurdles, there's a couple of filters that exist, um, which is the first year of operation and then your third year of operation. Once you get there, you tend to be able to find your niche, and now you can move on and start heading towards that 5, 10, 20-year time horizon. So how often do new businesses open? As we saw this before, and this has got data up to 2023, this is what I was expecting here. So you can see here on the left-hand side, 1.5 million businesses opened right before the great financial crisis, and down she went. But since 2018, 2019, we have been on a steady incline of new businesses opening. Had a little drop here, and then it just popped right back up. And that is 100% in line with the expectations that we've had. Again, I hate to say this, but if it wasn't for the pandemic, we would have continued to see that number going up regardless. More and more people are finding ways to open businesses to be able to take care of some of the niche situations that are available. So long story short, things are looking very good. Now, the last bit here just cover is on a state level, places with larger populations saw the most high propensity business applications in 2023. Who would have thought, right? More people, more business. Florida, then California, Texas, New York, and Georgia. Now with that, but Missouri, Wyoming, Delaware, Florida, and Colorado had the most applications per capita, i.e. the number of applications per person on average. So with that, I highly recommend, if you want to just take a look at that data. It's important every now and again. One of the things I talk with my clients is you are constantly measuring yourself against what your expectations for how well your business should be doing. That's one way of looking at it. But you also need to be able to take a look within your industry and then across the entire spectrum of small businesses as a whole to see where you're at. And it helps you just understand how well you are doing in comparison to things. So if you got a second, check it out. Link is in the description. Again, if you want to learn more about how I help small businesses grow, grow their businesses faster than they ever thought possible, go to sevenbusinessguys.com. You can see a link right here. You can learn more about some of the businesses that I help, the growing businesses. Little picture of me right there. And then, you can follow me on YouTube, Facebook, etc. You can see I use the Pinnacle business operating system as the system of choice that I use for my clients. Helps them organize their businesses so that they can make better business decisions, business decisions. So if you're not familiar with Pinnacle, you can check out some of the key proponents here. You can also see, again, latest YouTube videos that I have. This one's on my applicant funnel. And the spot over here is most recent broadcast on Facebook, which I do this particular talk, this broadcast 2 times a day. So I do one early in the morning, and then I have another one a little bit later. The early morning one is at between 8 and 9 o'clock on Facebook. So if the mornings were good for you, come check me out over on Facebook. Give me a follow. You'll be glad you did. All right, so let's get into the last bit here. It's going to be the 7 trends defining the ongoing war for talent. SHRM had their annual conference, so out in Vegas. And again, as far as for SHRM, it's the professional organization for HR managers. And from this, and I've heard this from a few folks as well who were in attendance, and then also just some other readings, that AI has been wreaking havoc on HR, specifically on some of their core functions where AI is getting really good at doing some of the stuff that HR, hung their hat on, as far as like recruiting, being able to sort, identify A and B stack applicants, some of the copyright. There's things that AI are doing that, again, we used to depend on HR folks for, not necessarily the case anymore. So the industry is getting shook up, which frankly, it's been due for a while. Again, I did HR for a while. And one of the things that they are now having to do with HR is demonstrate how they are actually adding value to the organization beyond the usual, hey, well, I'm here to help recruit. I'm here to help do this. They're looking for a um, little more context, a little more texture, a little bit more data and metrics to be able to back that up. So here we go. The SHRM Talent Conference and Expo 2024, Talent 24, highlighted key trends in talent acquisition, emphasizing the necessity for agility in a rapidly changing world. By the way, this article on SHRM, they're typically a little bit word salad-y. So I'm going to skip over some of the stuff, just FYI. Over 3 days, experts shared insights and best practices on skills-based hiring, AI adoption, there it is, personalized management, critical thinking, and understanding evolving workforce dynamics for future success. When I talk with CEOs about what keeps them up at night, it's talent, said SHRM President and Chief Executive Officer Johnny C. Taylor, SHRM SCP, in a surprise appearance closing out the event. Well, I'm glad they were able to. Glad the the president and chief executive officer was able to show up to one of their largest events. That's good. Leaders say that the number one thing we can do is get the right people into our organizations, people with the right technical expertise who are also culturally aligned. So one of the things that I talk with my clients about is making sure that we do talent assessments on our folks. And what that is, that it helps us align how well they are as far as being productive, and also productive as how well do they produce as compared to the duties outlined in their job description. Like that's the definition. And then the other spot where we look at it is the culture, which is what's the worst accepted behavior within your organization. Thing I want you to keep in mind here is that, with that, there's this idea of production, but also the cultural fit. You need to come back to the production piece here and how well they're working. That's on operations to make sure that they have clearly defined the expectations for what those folks in operations are supposed to be doing. HR just can't recruit blindly if operations hasn't provided a clean and clear job description for HR. So just FYI. Don't leave your HR folks hanging out there, operations people. If they're not working well for you, you need to look at what they're doing, how well you are preparing them with a quality job description for that job ad. All right. Now with this, every organization is saying we can't find the right talent. That's an amazing opportunity for talent acquisition. The war for talent is not over. The hard work is not done. So let's take a look at some of the top 7 things that came out of this here. And then the SHRM annual conference, if you want to go, I'm sure it'll be a riot, will be June 23rd through the 26th in Chicago. All right, number 1, talent challenges require creative approaches. Panelists at 2024's annual trends presentation spoke about pivotal shifts in talent acquisition strategies and emphasized the need for innovation, particularly in building distinctive employer brands, leveraging technology for efficiency gains, and transitioning to skills-based hiring practice to tap into a broader talent pools. Let me go ahead and translate that last one for you. Transitioning to skills-based hiring practices to tap in broader talent pools. It means they don't care as much about your college degree anymore. That's what that means. The college degree requirement is going to be getting stripped away from more and more jobs. So that's what that means. All right. Let's get into this other spot here. So coming out of the pandemic, we found ourselves trying to figure out what to do in order to open back up, said Justin Fronberg, Executive Director of Talent Acquisition at MGM Resorts International. We had to be creative and shift our mindset when talking about who we are looking for, teaching people the skills we need instead of them already having the exact industry work. One thing I would say specifically about that too is, hire for talent, aptitude. Then you train the folks that you want. I was helping one of my clients as a new office manager and who had never done any office management before. Their talent. They've got all the right skill set, and when you get to know them and you see the way they're around people, they're organized, they have the talent piece. So when I went in and I was, there to just offer some advice and talk them through some of the things, they were worried because they'd never done office management before. And I said, that's perfect. That way we don't have to untrain you. They're going to come in and they are going to be able to give you the exact training you need to be successful here. So that's a good thing. Don't have to unlearn any bad habits. So don't look at that, knock that as a negative. All right. Wow. Shannon Taylor, direct talent acquisition at JCPenney. JCPenney's is still around? That's interesting. Okay. Highlighted the importance of personalized engagement. We've had to focus on relationships to try to invoke feelings in order to get them to want to join the organizations. So that's a big part of it, is your brand and what people can expect. All right, so AI makes critical thinking a must. So AI, artificial intelligence, offers an opportunity and imperative for enhanced critical thinking skills in the workplace, said Justin Reinert, SHRM SEP, a corporate trainer and principal of performance accelerated learning. Reiner emphasized the importance of human verification of AI generated results. He warned of the challenge of discerning fact from AI generated content. And I think we've all seen this where Chat GPT has given erroneous stuff out there before because the data that it's pulling from doesn't have, it hasn't been quality checked. So with that, Reinert advocated for fostering critical thinking skills, including observation, analysis, inference, communication, and problem solving through tailored training methods, which this guy would, since his business is principle of performance accelerated learning. He's into training, so of course he's going to say more training. He emphasized that effective AI implementation necessitates a workforce equipped with robust critical thinking abilities. Absolutely. You need to be able to discern what AI, if you're going to use AI, which I highly recommend, find ways to utilize it to make your work easier, but don't take what it kicks out as gospel. That's one of the bigger problems people run into. Make sure that you are savvy enough and you have your critical thinking skills. You've got that gray matter engaged. So when it does kick something out, you can look at it and say, man, that don't make no sense. Or, hey, this is great. We're going to run with it. AI regulations require compliance coordination. Big thing on this here is that just because you send something, use AI to verify or write something out, it does not mean that you are not liable for still following in line with all the rules and regulations within your organization and industry. Just because AI says so doesn't mean it's so. That's really what they're getting here. Got to make sure that you have everything covered. Now, HR is at a crossroads. Elliot Mazie, a learning and development expert, had said HR is at a critical intersection of talent, technology, and learning. He urged HR leaders to embrace evolving landscape, particularly integration of AI. There's a running thing here also. Every single article that we typically cover has AI in there somewhere, and that's for the algorithm. It's hilarious to see it popping up. Now, the world of learning is going to change. It's going to change whether you're wanting it to change or not. Mazie said. He added that HR needs to be ready to advocate for good design in implementing AI tools, saying AI is not a standalone solution. It becomes truly powerful when paired with human intelligence. Absolutely. What I recommend to my clients, use AI as a 80% solution or even a 90% solution. Have it help you write copy for your marketing, then go in and refine it to finish it off. There's no reason for you to do all the heavy lifting. Use AI for some of that stuff, but at the end, you do need to have a skilled human somewhere touching that at the last bit. All right, question the conventional wisdom on talent. Industry expert Tim Sackett, SHRM SCP, picked apart common ideas about recruitment and advocated that business leaders should heed the expertise of their talent acquisition teams who work in the trenches and have an up-close view of what works and what doesn't when it comes to recruiting and hiring talent. That was one sentence. That's wild. Sackett questioned mantras such as we only hire top talent and quality of hire is the most important metric as empty statements because recruiters don't have enough time to truly hire the best person for a role, or most organizations do not know how to measure the quality of hire. Real quick caveat on that. Can you imagine, for my operations people out there watching this, can you imagine saying, I don't have time and I'm not sure how to measure that to the COO, to the CEO, or even to the board? This is where HR is at right now. They are getting that. They finally basically have to cross the Rubicon and they have to start figuring out ways to quantify, qualify, and measure their performance in a way that makes sense to the rest of the organization and show how they provide value rather than what it has been for a very long time. And again, after doing HR, I understand it, where it's kind of a black box. Things happen in there that they can't necessarily explain or measure. They couldn't measure, they said. And now, and it spits out people, to do the work. That's pretty much coming under the gun. Now with this, if it was so important, there would be known formula that everyone would know and use. My clients, we use multiple metrics to measure the effectiveness of our HR recruiters and how well they're doing, especially on their strategies. If you'd like to learn more, someofbusinessguys.com, check it out. Recruiters' frustrating relationship with hiring managers is not the biggest obstacle to their work, he said. Organizational turnover is. Now, this one has to do, all right, real quick. The most productive recruiting teams work for companies with really low turnover. Here's the deal: operations. This is kind of on you for that one. You need to make sure that you have within operations that you have all of your systems understood. The expectations for your jobs are fully understood and by your entire team, so that when HR does hire the people to in line with your job description, that the folks that land there are actually doing the job as outlined in their job description. So that's on you, operations. You need to make sure that what you're asking for and what you're telling these HR is hiring for is what the people will actually be doing. That's how you reduce turnover. Most of the time when people leave is because they get into a job and they're like, I'm out of here, I quit, because the job doesn't align with what they were sold, what they thought they were coming in to do. So you get a job mismatch. They chuck a deuce up and they're out, which increases your turnover. So operations, that's on you. Next is going to be seek to understand Gen Z. The Zoomers, the kids, gotta love them. I say kids, obviously they're not kids, but they're adults now. But the Zoomers. Chelsea C. Williams, CEO of Reimagine Talent, addressed the enigma of Gen Z. There's no enigma. They tell you exactly what they want, what they're willing to do, and what they're not willing to do. They're pretty straightforward. They know they don't want to be miserable like the boomers as far as their work-life balance. They want to come in and they want to make sure that they're doing something that's going to be meaningful and impactful. But mostly, they want to make sure that they're going to have time off to live their life. They're pretty straightforward. But with that, they've got their value systems a little bit different. But just understand with them end up being 30% of the workforce in the next 6 years, you need to start making some adjustments overall to the way that you are marketing and taking care of those folks. And lastly is going to be your succession planning is critical for business continuity. That's the last bit here. So again, if you want to see this on SHRM.org, the link's in the description, but I'm just going to wax on this one for a minute. So succession planning is critical for business continuity. One of the things that I work with my clients consistently is that you need to have, when you get into business, you should have a plan to be leaving your business already. But if that's not the case, what I recommend to you is as soon as you can, start thinking about what you want your legacy to be with your business. You've created this asset that has value, that's providing livelihoods for people and their families. How do you want to protect that to ensure it's going to be safe going forward? So with that, you want to have a business that you can either sell to someone else. Do you want it to stay within the family? Do you want to do an ESOP, an employee stock ownership plan, where the actual, the employees, once they meet certain threshold, they are owners they own the company and they're responsible for managing it. So think about how you want to do that. Make sure that that is top of mind for you, because there's quite a few businesses that when there isn't a plan in place and when the owner, for whatever reason, unfortunately passes away, the business goes under because there's no one to replace them. They don't actually have a business there. And the folks that are there, they end up out of work. And all of that effort that individual put in as far as that owner operator over those decades just goes away because there isn't a plan in place in order to capture that equity and pass that business on. So it can grow and thrive. So, that's a bigger piece here. So again, if you're interested in how to do that, you can reach out to me, summabusinessguys.com. It's one of the main things that I do with my clients is help them build a business that they can eventually sell. Big part of this. So with that, let's go over what we talked about here. And we talked about Pew Research. Again, they had their demographics. Basically, so you can kind of see exactly where the small businesses are. Again, just that really important piece here is that businesses between 1 and 4 employees is 49% of the workforce works in those type of companies. That's just amazing to me. And there's other data there as well as had to do some demographics on some ethnic, gender breakdown, some of those. And then the last one, we just talked about the 7 current trends in the war on talent from the SHRM conference in Vegas from earlier. So again, links to everything that we talked about today is in the description. Again, if you want to learn more about what I do to help businesses grow faster than they ever thought possible, go over here to summabusinessguys.com. You can book a free call with me. We'll hop on, see what you have to do. So with that, thank you for everything. Give me time today. If you did like this, please be sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know when I go live. And if you know anyone you think that may find value from this, basically from the broadcast. It's Monday through Friday where I do this. Please share it with them. All right. You have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.